Excellent!
Corsair and Cherry have a special relationship. Corsair purchases obscene amounts of Cherry MX mechanical switches to use in Corsair keyboards, and Cherry in turn provides Corsair with exclusives, such as the exclusive use of RGB LED Cherry MX switches a couple years back. Now Cherry has a new switch developed in collaboration with Corsair specifically for gaming, the Cherry MX Speed Switch. And if you want to know how fast it is, you're gonna have to purchase a Corsair keyboard, at least during their exclusivity period for the next 6 months. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Corsair K70 Rapidfire RGB featuring the also brand new Cherry MX Speed switches, and yes, they still have RGB LEDs. So Corsair has just launched this full-size K70 Rapidfire keyboard as well as a 10-keyless K65 Rapidfire, both using the Cherry MX Speed switch with RGB LEDs and costing $169.99 for the K70 RGB Rapidfire and $149.99 for the K65 RGB Rapidfire, that's MSRP. Let's start off with a closer look at the speed switches though. Cherry's all-new switches have a 45-gram actuation force and 1.2mm actuation distance, making them around 40% faster than Cherry MX Reds, according to the marketing copy from Corsair. It's a linear switch, meaning it has smooth travel from top to bottom and no tactile bump or clicky sound, so similar to Cherry MX Blacks or Reds, but not as stiff and with less travel distance to actuate. Compare this to Cherry MX Browns, which have a 2mm actuation distance and 55-gram actuation force, and you can see where Corsair gets the 40% number from. It's 1.2 divided by 2. Not to put too fine a point on it. Corsair isn't the first to go for minimal actuation distance in a keyboard though. Logitech's G series of mechanical keyboards, for example, use their Roamer G switches with a 1.5mm actuation distance and 45-gram actuation force. Just remember, travel distance is how far the key moves from top to bottom out completely, whereas actuation distance is how far the key needs to travel to register the keystroke. Comparing the Cherry MX Speed switches on the K70 Rapidfire to the Cherry MX Red switches on my K95, which features the same general design, I found that the travel distance for each key to bottom out is different, but only by about a millimeter. The MX Reds start at 15mm high and bottom out at 11mm, so they travel 4mm. The MX Speed switches also start out at 15mm high, but they bottom out at 12mm, meaning they only move 3mm, which is perceptibly different while typing if you bottom out each keystroke. It is subtle though, and I had to measure just to be sure. As for the speediness of the switch, remember that most mechanical switches actuate and send the keystroke to the system well before the key actually bottoms out. So if you pressed both keys at the exact same time, the MX Speed switch would register the keystroke after the key has moved 1.2mm, and the MX Red would register the keystroke after moving 2mm down. It's difficult to nail down precisely how much faster it is without some high-speed camera work, but Corsair's 40% faster explanation, while being based on math, is definitely dripping with at least a little bit of marketing hyperbole. I will say though that like high refresh rate 144Hz monitors, in fast-paced PC gaming, it's often just about being first, whether it's being the first to see the next rendered frame from your GPU, or the first to hit the attack or fire key on your keyboard. And the MX switches, all else being equal, will be first in that button-pushing race, even if it's a matter of microseconds. Moving on to the rest of the keyboard though, accessories include a manual and warranty info, a keycap puller, and 10 extra textured keycaps for the WASD area. The K70 Rapidfire sports the same design and brushed aluminum finish as the K70 RGB that preceded it, which isn't a bad thing at all. While it doesn't have the trough that the keys are recessed into like the Corsair Strafe or the Cooler Master Master Keys Pro that I recently reviewed, which gives those keyboards the ability to have a white backplate that's underneath that kind of reflects more of the RGB light up, this design does have its advantages. The clear switch housings allow the RGB LEDs to shine through brilliantly, even from the sides, and the absence of a trough beneath means that cleaning is much easier, whether you're doing a quick dust off with canned air or you're actually removing all the keycaps to give the undercarriage a bit of the old "how's your father." I really like that Corsair has added a USB pass-through to this keyboard. That's a very nice upgrade compared to the previous K70 RGB, and a feature that always earns bonus points with me. There's also a 4-position polling rate switch, which you'll probably keep in the fastest position, but it is super helpful for BIOS and UEFI compatibility. The keys themselves provide good illumination through the keycaps, and I approve of the choice of font. Also, the spacebar is textured, which will help you find it with your thumbs a little bit more easily. And there's a soft finish wrist rest included as well. On the bottom are 4 height adjustment feet, allowing you to work with a positive or negative tilt or simply raise the entire keyboard up by an inch or so. Finally, the top right area has dedicated media controls, including the knurled barrel-style volume control knob, which I really like, lighting and Windows lock buttons, and all of these controls have RGB backlighting in them as well, meaning that every visible light on this keyboard has RGB control, and that's just how it should be done. Good job, Corsair. But how do you control the RGB LEDs? For that you need Corsair's software, and you'll find many people have a love-hate relationship with the Corsair Utility Engine application. The software is very capable and customizable, but also can be daunting based on the sheer volume of options available. It's still pretty much the same software, so I will spare you the full guide. For that, feel free to check out Kyle's tutorial that I will link down in the video's description. I'm just showing off some of the presets here, and more are available for download from Corsair's website. Some are just cool lighting schemes, and others are set up for specific games like CSGO, League of Legends, or World of Warcraft. If you're willing to plow through the learning curve, you can edit your own effects, set up complex macro sequences, or try out built-in effects like gradient, ripple, and wave. This is undoubtedly the most full-featured lighting control software in its class, but again, with great capabilities comes great complexity. If you really don't want to mess with the software though, you can browse through and import profiles that have been created and shared by other Corsair keyboard users, and that's a library that is growing every day. So where does that leave us? Put simply, this is a very nice keyboard. You'll probably like it a lot if you're a gamer, and even more if you're into Cherry MX Red or Cherry MX Black switches, since they have a very similar feel. I'm actually curious if there's a speed switch version in the works with a tactile bump or click for fans of MX Browns, Greens, or Blues, but no official word on that yet. Beyond the switches, the keyboard design, build quality, and features are all top-notch, and I have no problem recommending the K70 Rapidfire RGB. As for cons, it's worth noting that these switches are not as good for typists, as depth of travel distance is actually one of the features of mechanical switches that sets them apart from rubber dome keyboards. If you're used to typing lightly as well and you don't bottom out the keys, these switches might take some getting used to. That is all for this review though. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I strongly encourage you to hit the like button down below. If you want to help support me even more, you can use my Amazon link, which is down in the video description. Just click it before you shop for stuff on Amazon, that helps me a ton. Or feel free to visit my store at store.paulshardware.net, where you can pick up a shirt like this one. Mugs or pint glasses are available as well. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already for more tech videos, and as always, thank you for watching. That was on purpose. Also, I can make the computer make noises by pushing buttons. Okay, sorry. Wow.